Hey, welcome back. It's Sarah from Roadworthy. Hope everyone is doing well. I don't have a ton of books to talk about. Actually, well, I shouldn't say that. I have 3 books to talk about, but I've just been super busy this week. I've had an online sketching retreat that has been a 3-day event. So that has kept me busy, sketching. I'm trying to think. Oh, let me just grab one thing. One of the things that I wanted to do was, so many of these instructors are architects, and I was surprised at how many of them were using markers. And so I took one little course that was, just drawing a basic house and trees and coloring with markers. I thought it was kind of fun. I'm not sure I like the markers, but anyway, I had a good time. Anyway, busy with that. And then I also got selected to do a test knit, which means a knitwear designer invited me to get the pattern, provide me with the pattern to test out and look for errors in the pattern. And then, for the designer, obviously they're having other eyes catch mistakes, but they then also, when the pattern's published, there's several people who've made it that other people can see, oh, this is what it looks like in different yarns, different colors, etc. So it helps sell the pattern. Anyway, I had to run out and buy yarn to do that, and then I started it and I was like, this yarn isn't working. So I'm running out later today, actually with a friend. Anyway, redo, get new yarn. Anyway, and so I've been very busy with that and not a super ton of reading. But let me get to what I did read. I did read The Purchased Bride by Peter Constantine. This is a debut. Peter Constantine is actually a translator, and this is the first book that he wrote. Honestly, I think I would have DNF'd this book, but I bought it, and so I felt like I had to persevere. And then there were aspects of this book that made me want to persevere as well. So this takes place in 1909, and we have a Greek family living in the Caucasus, which I didn't even know there were Greeks in the Caucasus. And I had to pull out the atlas because of the different cities that are commented on here. But basically there were, I'm gathering, Greek communities in Georgia, which is where this family was from, and then all along the South Black Sea along Turkey. And so 1909, so the Ottoman Empire, which is this family is a part of, is starting to fall apart, and the Russians are invading. And so this family flees their Georgian homeland, and they are hoping to go across Turkey and go into Athens. They're, kind of a poor family. The 2 brothers, her brothers, are in the city, working in I want to say a glass factory, something like that. So they come home, periodically, but they're there. So the parents and the young daughter, who's 14, Maria, flee their village. So they're separated from their sons. And then they're sort of living with a bunch of refugees and a priest. And the priest, there's an opportunity for some of the girls to be purchased to be brides of Muslim Turkish men. And so this story opens with Maria meeting her wealthy Turkish husband, soon-to-be husband, and, you know, joining his harem. And it opens that way, which I think is sort of a problem with this book, because all of the tension of what is happening to this family and Maria is completely lost. Like, you know, they're fine. The book also tells you that this is based on Peter's grandmother. So again, when that opening scene of Maria being introduced to her husband-to-be and his first wife, he writes it as my grandmother, my grandfather. And so again, you know, it all turns out fine in the end. So that tension is a little bit lost, but still, I was quite interested in how Maria goes from being a refugee in Georgia to Constantinople, and being married to a Turkish man. So kept going. And again, sort of what you piece together is a little bit of the cultural differences between the Greeks. They are Christians, you know, and then a little bit how that contrasts with the Muslim Turks. And her family, despite their very religious, traditional, conservative ways, realize very quickly that this is a way for Maria to basically stay safe. And this Turkish man is paying a lot of money. And so the family recognizes that they'll be able to pay their way to get to Athens and sort of be set up. So Maria is, you know, essentially is paying, right, for her family's safety ultimately. And I thought that was a really interesting story, and I kind of wanted to get more of that, her wrestling with that fate, her parents grappling with that decision. Again, it's the priest, the Greek Orthodox priest, who is approached with this deal, and him wrestling with that decision to again agree to basically sell off some of these girls. It just wasn't there, you know. You get a lot of the plot, but a lot of the emotional content I just don't think was done very well in this book. And again, I wanted to learn more about these Greek communities, and I feel like I kind of didn't even get that either. So I felt like it was an interesting moment in time that I just don't think was kind of represented super well. So this just didn't work for me super well, sadly. Then I wanted to, again, doing a lot of knitting, I had an audiobook, Godkiller by Hannah Kanner. This is the first in a trilogy, and the final book in the trilogy is coming out in April. So I never like to start a series unless like the whole series is going to be published by the time I'm done. Just because if I read one and then a year goes by, it's like, oh, forget it, you know. It's like I got to start all over. So this book is interesting. So this is a debut. This is about Kessin, who is a god killer, and that's exactly what it sounds like. This is a world where you find out sort of in the history, there was this revolt, and sort of the new gods pitched in to support the humans and defeated the wild gods, and then the king of the humans sort of turned against all gods, and there are this class of people, god killers, who go around destroying shrines and killing gods. So you can think of gods as like, there's the god of war, the god of the sun, the god, you know, those kinds of things. But there's also one of the characters is Chitty, and he is the god of white lies. So there can be gods of this little stream, gods of, you know, pickpockets, you know, you can have these very minor gods to like versus more of like the god of love, you know, these major things that we usually think of. So as I mentioned, Chitty, the god of white lies, he is bonded to this young girl, Inara. She is the daughter of a noblewoman. She doesn't know who her father is. She's, I think, 14-ish in this book. And like I said, she and Chitty are bound. They like can't physically be separated. And she approaches Kessin in a bar, like, I've got this God problem. Like, can you help us get separated? And Kessin agrees to help her for various reasons. And it becomes very invested in protecting Inara and wanting to separate her from Chitty. And those two bond up. They've got a mission. They're going on a quest to seek help in this city where the final battle between humans and gods took place. Midran. So they're on a quest to go to Midran because she, you know, there's somebody there who can help her figure out how to separate Inara and Chitty. And then along the way, they meet this knight, Elo, who was, you know, besties with the king. And then they had a falling out because Elo did not like some of the final decisions that the king had made. So he too, for various reasons, is on a quest to Midran. And of course, the three of them meet up and, you know, adventure ensues. So this is eventually, you know, this is basically a quest. And, you know, there's demons and, you know, there's various things, battles along the way, you know. What I didn't like about this book is, again, it's a debut. And so probably I felt like the first half of the book was really trying to build the world, introduce you to these characters, help you understand sort of the motivations and why they're doing what they're doing, and really kind of set up the later books. And the second half, we really get sort of the quest piece, right? Them traveling to Midran, and then what happens when they get there. And of course, it ends in such a way to set up the second book, right? And so you realize, yes, there's this, battling piece with the gods, but you're also understanding, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of political intrigue going on that Inara is in the middle of, that she didn't know, so some interesting things get set up. So I feel like this was enjoyable, kind of fun, but it had its faults. But I feel like, now I'm set up for the second book that promises to be far more interesting. Both the first and the second book got starred reviews in Kirkus. And so, like I said, I enjoyed this one, but it clearly had its faults, but I'm quite interested in where the second one goes. I often feel like I end trilogies after book 2. So, we'll see. And the last book that I read and finished last night was Counsel Culture by Hye-jin, published from the Korean, translated from the Korean by Jamie Chang. This is interesting. So we have Hye-soo, who is a therapist, sort of like Dr. Phil, she was on TV, and she also had, her therapeutic practice. And you find out that she made some comments on the TV show about this actor and how he was wrong and he needed to take responsibility and, blah, 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 blah. And a couple months later, the actor committed suicide. And Hye-soo is canceled, right? She loses her job on the TV. She gets fired from her job. And so this story opens sort of a year after those events with her really almost in this state of suspension. Her marriage has fallen apart. She doesn't really communicate with friends anymore. She's incredibly isolated. She doesn't like to go out in public because people used to recognize her and sort of verbally attack her on the streets. She was being attacked in social media. So she's really hunkered down and is isolated, lonely, and in fact, she writes a letter every day that she doesn't send, but she writes a letter to her ex-husband, to the mother of the actor, to her former boss, to all these people. And the letters are a really effective way for you to see how lost, how lonely, how isolated she is, how desperate she is, how confused, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Feeling like people perhaps overreacted and is maybe inappropriately blaming her for what happened. She just feels confused about the whole thing. And then like, why did her job at the counseling center, why did they fire her? You know, and she was admired and, you know, one of the founding members of the center, you know. And so her whole life has been upended and turned around, and she's just very lost. And I think those letters are a very effective technique to illustrate that. In her wanderings, she somehow meets up with Sei, who is this 10-year-old girl, who is very obsessed with the feral cats in the neighborhood. And she is very drawn to this cat Turnip. I love that name. Who is this little orange cat who has, you know, a hurt paw. He's got a scrape on his head, you know, and these two hook up, Sei and Jesus, to feed Turnip. You know, he's a feral cat, so they're trying to get him to approach them. And then they turn into, they want to try and rescue him and save him. And they're trying to catch him. Anyway, and Turnip has all these physical injuries that honestly, it was a little like, oh God, please don't let anything happen to Turnip, because I don't know that I can take it. You know? And you know, Sei and Jesus, they sort of become friends. And so really, it's a quiet, kind of gentle story. And you sort of see these three characters, Turnip, Jesus, and Sei, you know, that they're sort of all parallel stories. You see the three of them all trying to recover from their past, recover and find a footing, find, you know, purpose and meaning in their lives, and find a path to healing, and ultimately find a path to connecting to people again. So, you know, it was kind of heartwarming. And again, I think it's a quiet story, and I really think Kim Hye-jin really does a great job of you seeing sort of the interiority of Jesus. It is told from her perspective. And so I wish, just out of my own curiosity, we got more of Sei, her story. And we don't, which is, you know, just, it's fine in terms of the book. It just, you know, like, I wanted to know, like, wait a minute, what's going on with her? And you get little hints of it, but it's not completely satisfying. Anyway, I really, really enjoyed this. And I thought this was just a nice book. I need a noun, a verb, an adjective for like those like quiet, all I can think of is quiet and gentle books. Anyway, I also love the form factor of this book. It's like short and it's little. Yeah, I like this book, and I like the little cover with the little cats. Anyway, like this book a lot. So that's what I read this week. What am I currently reading? I am currently reading The Ancients by John Harrison. I'm listening to that. I went to the opening of his author tour. This book was just published. So I'll say more about that next week. And I need to pick up a new book. since I just finished Counsel Culture last night, and I don't know when I'm going to pick up. So there you have it. So I hope you all are doing well. And this was, I feel like, a quick one, but yeah, I gotta get back to sketching. I've got one more day and I gotta go out and buy yarn again. So catch him with you next week. Bye.